Hi, thanks very much for having us along today. Really pleased to be here with you at GovX Digital, and I'm really interested to hear what other panelists and other presentations are going to be sharing with us today. My name's Glen Ocskó. I'm the head of local government at MadeTech. MadeTech are an organisation that's been around for quite some time, and we work exclusively with the public sector to drive digital improvements, digital developments, and also to support teams and services as they upskill themselves. We're really passionate about making quick change using modern GDS style approaches, agile development, and also in a sustainable way so that we can make sure we leave organizations in a far more empowered state than when we found them. We work across the public sector, from central government through to health, but in particular also across local government. We've worked with councils up and down the country, large and small, from unitaries to counties and down to districts as well, both operational and strategic level, to really drive digital improvements. It's something we're passionate about, it's something we care about, and we know that every pound spent on digital development and evolution actually bears infinite benefits and positivity out of it. And we know digital can also be used to drive organizational change, to improve the way councils work, because digital is far more than just the code that's put in play at the end of the day. Now, we're asked here today to talk about the future of local government. It's an amazing thing to think of the future and to work out where things are going. But the future is a big place. We just don't know how it's going to pan out. Who could have foreseen anything that's come over the past few years? It'd be great if we could, though. However, in order to do that, what we'd need would be a bit of a time machine. Even though we don't have one, there is someone who does. Bear with me as I crowbar in an entire Back to the Future inspired theme for the rest of the presentation. Back to the Future, obviously, is one of the classic films of the 80s. It's a story, I won't say as old as time, because time doesn't really matter in it. It's a relatively confusing tale of timelines going back and forward all over the place. And like most time travel movies, you probably shouldn't think too hard about it. Without giving any spoilers away, Marty does get to see the outcomes of many actions and choices. He then has a chance to go back, improve things, change the future, change the past, to try and make things better for his family, friends, and, let's be honest, the world. And then he gets to go forward and see if they're okay. It would be wonderful if we were able to do the same. If in local government we were able to make a choice, to look forward, to see how it pans out, and then to look back and think, well, okay, how can we make that better? Instead of making a decision about how we're going to develop something, how we're going to evolve policy or strategy, or put plans and programs and projects in place, thinking they'll work, but not knowing they'll work. There's no way for us to do anything other than wait around and see if it does. And there's no chance for us to go back and think, well, actually, you know what? Looking back, I probably would have done something a lot different to that if I'd been able to go back and start again. We don't have our own DeLorean. But what we do have is an alternative timeline. This, of course, is the timeline we saw before. 2019 to 2021 and beyond was just going on at a standard pace before COVID came along. Now, we knew where we were going in 2019. We were able to build plans and policies and decisions and strategies on everything that had gone before, and know that it would probably be roughly the same going forward. We were able to plan our visions of the future and the timescales to match. But COVID changed everything. COVID absolutely came along and created an entirely new timeline of reality. It's a timeline that realistically saw 6 years worth of development in many cases kind of crammed in to 6 months. We had to act differently. We had to reassess everything we were doing, stop all those original plans we had in place, and start thinking, how can we make things work? How can we survive, let alone thrive? It involved councils having to spin up services and using things like cloud technology at a pace never before seen. One council I know went from less than 300 part-time home working staff to having several thousand working from home constantly, all within a matter of weeks. It wasn't perfect, it wasn't seamless, but it did work. It did mean that those officers were able to dial in, they were able to communicate, they were able to access systems and platforms that in the past they never would have been able to remotely. Now, if you'd said 18 months ago that you're able to do that, that you're able to mass shift an entire culture and way of working, I would have laughed at you. I would have called you a crazy fool. But actually, it did happen. And whether it was ideal or not, it's something that happened. And what that has entailed is not only has that got up to speed, but it's also condensed that time period where those developments would have happened. I would argue that actually we're further ahead now than we would have been if COVID hadn't happened in terms of digital evolution, in terms of being forced into those changes. We've condensed that time and really accelerated some of that development, a lot of that digital thinking and the platforms and processes that we had to go through. So why then are we starting to think about the past? Why then are we going back to the plans we originally made in 2019 and thinking, well, let's just update those slightly. Let's just add the word Teams in there. Let's just say we can do this remotely if we need to, but realistically, let's just update them and change some dates and evolve things as they would have been before. That's massively, massively missing the opportunity that we've got here. It's not making the most of this opportunity to start thinking, we've learned these things. We've brought this development forward. Now, where are we going next? We can't go back. We haven't got a DeLorean. We can't go back to how things were. We need to work out where we're going to go now that they've changed. And there's lots of stuff that's actually been implemented that works really, really well. We made the most of the technology we had available to us. And some of it works fantastically. As I say, moving to using technology such as Teams has actually proven that we can operate remotely, that we can operate in a way which enables services to maintain, even if we can't all be in the same place at the same time. We need to keep building on those. We need to own those good practices. Just like if I could get my own Mr. Fusion, then I wouldn't need to be plugged into the network. I could just make my own electricity. We've also learned that the shift to cloud is huge. It's not going to go away. The shift to cloud and the ability to make use of cloud technologies and the power of cloud technology and modern technology built on cloud platforms means that we should now be able to consign on-site data centers realistically to history. We don't need them. In fact, in many ways, they're holding us back. We should be able to move to modern technology because we've proven we can across every service in every area. Of course, some of them haven't worked as well as we'd like them to. Like the fridge that was built back in the 1800s by Doc Brown, we've patched together the technology we have available to make it work, but it's not ideal. It's not streamlined, and it's certainly not built for the 21st century. Remember, realistically, we've got 19th century organizations building on 20th century technology to deliver 21st century solutions. That's not sustainable. What we need to do is look at how we can improve some of those so that we are using modern tech and we're not building platforms and processes which do open us up to the possibility of security breaches. We do need to open up to the possibility that actually by building using old tech, we're locking away opportunities to do things better, and we're kicking the legacy can down the road. And when I say opening up things, I am including talking about data in there, because data is really at the heart of so much of what we should be looking for moving forward, and that is at the heart of what comes next for local government. Data really is at the heart of how we operate, and it needs to be more than just a buzzword. Data really does need to become the new way of life for local government moving forward. moving back to the future, Marty at one point gets given a sports almanac, which gives him the results of everything that's going to go on in sport for about 50 years. He's able to go back and place his bets and make a fortune, or that was certainly the plan. Now, with data, we are able to, in some respects, start building our own almanacs. We start able to draw together statistics and data and trends and build out entire platforms which can then use this data to drive service improvement. I mean, we don't want to place bets and turn into a Biff Buchanan style character, but we should be able to use data to meet the challenges ahead of us far, far better. And it means we're able to check on the progress of our decisions and our policies and our platforms without having to wait for it to pan out down the line. Looking back, we know what we would have done in the past, and we know how that could have turned out. With data, we're able to do that in the future as well. We're able to project, we're able to gather evidence and build real pictures of how things are working. We need to move away from just thinking about solving service issues and move towards solving data issues, which we know will then lead to huge service improvements. This is something we're doing at MadeTech already. We're working with London boroughs and with other councils as well, and other organisations, including MHCLG, to look at their data that they've got locked away in various different platforms and systems, and look at how we can unlock that from these proprietary platforms. We need to be able to take this data, draw it together into a data lake of various different sorts and sizes. Because the more streams of data we can unlock from proprietary platforms and from various services and systems and architectures means we can collate it and combine it and do far more interesting things with it. Each data lake that we contribute to allows us to build up a holistic picture of services, of how they're working, of how they're improving the services for every citizen that we are there to serve. And on top of this, we build data warehouses, which can be used by data analysts to drive service improvements, to drive delivery to be better than it otherwise would have been. And we need to keep pushing forward. We need to keep adding power to these data lakes and adding power to the services that are using the data within them to drive delivery improvements. Because without power, without the drive to use this data, it's just paddling on top of it. We're not going to get anywhere. It's no use having lots of information if you don't use it. So we need a commitment from services, from organizations, and from digital specialists to collate and use data on a constant basis. Now, realistically, we have been given a flux capacitor of sorts. It might not be one that we can always control, but it is one that is powered by modern digital approaches, modern tech and data, rather than bolts of lightning and plutonium. We're able to see ahead in a way that we've never been able to before and build on the successes of the past and learn those lessons at speed that we've never been able to before. We can't go back. We can't go back to a time pre-COVID, nor should we be trying to. We absolutely shouldn't be looking at what happened before and just trying to continue that. It's an opportunity we've been given here to really fundamentally rethink how we approach digital and how we use data to drive the future of local government forward. We are in our time machine. It goes forward 1 second at a time and only goes forward. However, if we make the most of this, we'll be able to continue our journey towards digital evolution that we've already started and end up in a far better future for everyone. So I'm really looking forward to taking questions in the panel discussions on the future of local government services. I'm really excited about talking about how MadeTech are working with data and with services to really drive digital improvements that are improving outcomes for services, businesses, and residents.